Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our workshop. We want to thank you for joining us for the Optimizing Your Child's Education in the COVID Crisis, hosted by UCLA Black Alumni Association. My name is Michelle Johnson. I am the president of UBAA. I want to wish you welcome, and right off the top, we want to thank you for your participation, given the climate that we're in right now, with the country in a devastating state of unrest. We realize that there's a lot of things weighing on us, locally, personally, nationally, the terrorism that's being carried out against Black men and Black women. And so we appreciate you taking the time to carve out to be here to talk about this very important issue, which is running parallel with so many other things that are going on. So we want to say that right off the top. Thank you for being here. From a housekeeping standpoint, everyone will be muted during the course of the workshop. Once you get into your breakout rooms, you will have the ability to speak more freely. And at certain points during this general space, there will be opportunities for you to be unmuted if there's something, a testimonial or a question that you want to ask aloud. But please understand that for the most part, everyone will be muted so that we can maintain some sanity and everything doesn't go crazy with dogs barking and fire engines wailing. So that being said, I also would like to take just a quick moment for us to acknowledge a giant in our community who passed away recently. And I will have that done by Manla.
Good morning, everyone. Just wanted to take a quick second and acknowledge Larry Aubrey, a giant in the South LA community. Some referred to him as the godfather of South Central, for his activism on behalf of Black folks generally for his entire adult life. I mean, literally to his last breath when he passed 2 weeks ago today. He was involved in organizations advocating around the needs of African Americans, both in terms of equity for social services, services from the city, county, state, federal government, but particularly in the area of education. He's a well-known, well-heeled education advocate. Most recently was the individual that encouraged George McKenna to run for the school board and championed his campaign, helped to get the Standard English Learner resolution passed, as well as the Equity for African American Students resolution that was passed last spring. He's a longtime journalist with the LA Sentinel, wrote over 1,700 columns over a 30-plus year career as a journalist there, so really a voice for the African American community on that local paper for decades. His daughter, Erin, also is a journalist who is a regular columnist with the LA Times. Both are Bruins. I think that's significant as well, so we definitely wanted to acknowledge he's one of our original Black Bruins. Early 60s, I believe he attended. He's a graduate of Fremont High, one of the first students to integrate Fremont High, and just a long time education advocate. So just wanted to make sure we acknowledge him as we embark on this particular effort to support the education of our youth and families during this crisis.
Absolutely. Thank you, Manla. Thank you, Manla. Also, I wanted to take a moment to acknowledge our board chairman, Bobby Grace, is here with us, and I wanted to give him an opportunity to make some remarks.
Good morning, everybody. How are you?
Wonderful.
Good morning. Good morning. On behalf of the UCLA Black Alumni Association, I would like to extend greetings and to let everybody know that the organization is grateful to all of the organizers of this event. We're grateful to our board president, our association president, Michelle Johnson, for helping to organize, and to all the participants who are going to be guiding us through. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We're greatly appreciative, and we hope to do more of these virtual events in the future, particularly those events focusing on social justice and mental health for everybody during what can only be described as traumatic events that are happening this year. I hope that everyone is navigating this as best they can, and you can rely on the association to try to provide as much help as possible as we try to get through this. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. So with that being said, we're going to dive right in. I'm going to do a brief introduction of the Powerhouse, and I say that, you know, I can't say it strongly enough, the Powerhouse panel of educators, administrators, alumni who will be facilitating the breakout rooms. And then I will turn it over to our main moderators who will then take you through the next part of the workshop. So we have we have 5 different breakouts. When you signed up, you indicated what age your child was in. And so these breakout rooms were created based on that, so that when you go into them, you'll be talking to someone who can speak to where you are with your child's education and the challenges that you're facing. So for our pre-K to 2nd grade breakout room, that is going to be moderated by Anthony Jackson, by Jean Pennycook, and by Dr. Pacolia Robinson. Our 3rd to 5th grade breakout room will be moderated by Tanette Powell, Melissa Ali, and Dr. Rick Epps. Thank you so much. Our middle school will be moderated by LeBron James, Tanika Orange, and Dr. Kamani Norrington Sands. Our high school breakout room will be moderated by Manda Kaise, Kiara Williams, Karen Graves, and Dr. Robert Urban. And then lastly, our college group will be moderated by Lisa Roper, Monique Matthews, Dr. Gina Fontaine, and Benny Blades. With that being said, I'm going to turn over the moderation to our main facilitators, which is going to be Tanette Powell and LeBron James.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. I am Tanette Powell. I think I want to acknowledge everybody that is in the room. I also want to, lift everybody up. I know that it is difficult to be parenting in a pandemic while also dealing with another pandemic that is racism. So I know, that that's extremely difficult. I am a mother of 3. And so today we're going to be focusing in on what has that impact been for us. It is going to be, we're going to offer big group where we'll talk about some things, and then we'll go into those breakout sessions, or we'll be able to get into a lot more of the intimate details. But just to kind of give you an overview, we are thinking about the impact of this pandemic on the educational and social emotional well-being of our children and of ourselves as well. So we definitely want to provide an opportunity to think about how has it impacted us as parents. We're going to start off, we're going to go through a few questions and to kind of think about how we'll do this. We'll use the chat a lot because we do have a large group of people here. So we'll go through these questions, LeBron and I, and we ask that if you feel comfortable, please share in the chat. We will, as we go through these questions, we will ask if people want to share. We'll take some of those hands. We'll go deeper when we get into the breakout sessions. But as we go through these questions, if you could raise your hand when it comes to sharing, so that way we know that you want to share, and we will unmute you and to allow you to share. But really, this is an opportunity for us to hear what the experience has been like and to think about what we can do collectively to come together and make sure that our communities have all of the resources that we need to really stand in the gap between what's happening and where we want to be. So LeBron is going to kick it off with our first question.
Hello, everyone, family, and welcome to this fantastic event. Thank you so much for getting it started. I want to ask a few questions of parents and get your feedback and thoughts. And to begin that, I want to frame it this way, that when dealing in education and other areas of life, we want to look at how do we feel above the neck, like how we're dealing with things mentally and intellectually. But we also want to focus on below neck in terms of our emotions and how we connect to human beings. So as you share your thoughts and your ideas, please think in terms of how you're feeling and connecting above the neck as well as below the neck. So our first question is, how has this COVID-19 disrupted your child's education, and what impacts has that had on the social, emotional well-being of your family? And so I know you all have thoughts. Think about that, ponder that, and please raise your hands if you would like to share with the entire group, or you may also comment in the chat. So once again, how has this COVID-19 impacted your child's education thus far, and how are you doing with your family in terms of your social, emotional well-being?
And let me add that raising your hand can be simply raising your hand. We do have an electronic feature, but you can just raise your hand as well.
Right. Right.
And so, Michelle, when you see those people raise their hand, we'll take the first couple to get the feedback and responses from the parents.
No hands raised at this time. Maybe they're thinking about the question.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so we do have one. Let me bring this up. And this is from Keisha Green. Keisha said, I'm speaking about my grandson. It's brought him and his mom closer with respect to education because my daughter is spending more time ensuring that he's learning.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really powerful. Thank you, Keisha, for sharing that. We've heard a lot of stories like that. I think in some respects that's been part of the story at my house as well. So I appreciate that. Do we have anybody else? And again, even if you don't want to share by raising your hand and speaking, please share in the chat.
Am I unmuted?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, I'm Charla Bruin, 88 to 93. I'm a mom of 2 Black boys. And the way that it's impacting us is I would agree with what Keisha stated about her grandson is certainly brought our entire family together in ways unexpected. So that's wonderful. But I am seeing some of the socio and emotional impacts on my sons. A lot of sleeping, a few meltdowns, and kind of not really understanding where those things were coming from. A lot of, I won't say a lot, but some, like, they're a little bit checked out in some ways. And so we're trying to make more efforts to engage with them, or to make sure we're actively engaging and encouraging them to engage with friends. One of my sons was very active on Zoom with his friends and then just had a hard break and was like, I just can't do it anymore. So we kind of are paying attention to that as well. So it's definitely having some impact in their socio-emotional. They can't articulate it, so we're watching their behaviors.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. And I'm seeing a lot of different responses in the chat. And some of these, I'll lift up as we're waiting. We'll take, we'll take one more and then we'll move to the second question. But a few I want to lift up in the chat was, really thinking about the teaching or lack thereof, especially at the elementary level. So I saw a third and fifth parent who talked about, not really, their children not really being engaged. We also saw a family that has a junior in high school and thinking about the uncertainty of that senior year. So, which are all very, very important things, and thinking about the road to college and what does that look like. We saw, being quarantined and you're still working full time, right? And being a single parent and how demanding that is. Absolutely. Do we have any other hands, Michelle? We'll take one more.
Certainly. There was a comment from Mia Young. She said, I feel overwhelmed. My child's teacher has pretty much checked out, and my third grader has a lot of work that I have to help him with. On top of that, I'm a high school teacher trying to manage my own classes. And then Burgundy said, I am co-quarantining because I'm a single parent and my work schedule is so demanding. It felt like my 10-year-old was alone. She's with my best friend Tuesday to Friday. All of the kids are with me on the weekend. She's handling her education like a college student. I'm confident that she's fine for now, but I'm concerned about the long term. I will need to shift support.
And the last one I want to lift up is Adana's as well, if I pronounced their name correctly, about being an essential worker and having to work outside of the home. I know that is, something extremely difficult when you have to work outside of the home. So it says it's been challenging for me because I work outside of the home, and I've told the teacher to please send information to me early so that I can make sure my family are able to help to keep her up. My daughter is in first grade and in an English and Spanish immersion program. So that's even more challenging because Spanish is not my primary language. I'm thinking about having her go back to a traditional classroom. So we can move on to the next question, but this is really important in framing what's going to happen when we get to the breakout sessions, because everything that we're unpacking right now, we want to delve deeper into that. So thank you all for sharing.
Yeah, thank you, Jeanette. And so now moving forward in terms of, we want to figure out what have you been doing to adjust during this particular difficult time. We understand the challenges, and we'll talk about those more deeply in the breakout sessions. But if parents can share, what have you been doing successfully to adjust, and what have you been able to do to gain some type of stability in the home, it would be great to hear your experience.
Mm-hmm.
So feel free, like I said, to raise your hand or to place something in the chat. I know personally I've been trying to get my kids more active during this time. I actually went and bought a ping pong table to get them active, projects around the house, painting, building things, just to keep them active and moving to sort of supplement that. But like I said, we would love to hear some more things that you parents have been doing to adjust to this time.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Thank you, Charlotte. You loosen up the academics and focus on other things. I agree. I think that's so important during this time, because this is not distance learning. This is remote learning during a pandemic, which is not a normal situation. So we can't be as academically stringent on our kids. Now is when they need the more love and support, and to help them explore some of their own interests being sheltered in. So how can we really advocate for their own interests? Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So Effie or Effie, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that.
Effie.
Effie shared, we're fortunate to work from home, and so our family takes a daily bicycle ride during school lunch breaks. This forces us to stop working, exercise, and bond as a family. It's so important because as parents, it's easy to work around the clock 24/7 from home and not have the space to tune in to family.
Thank you for that, Effie. Yes, I see we're getting some great comments in the chat, which we really appreciate. But we also encourage you all to raise your hand, and we'd love to hear your voice as we transition to this.
Certainly. So we'll acknowledge Desney. Just a moment. I'm going to unmute you.
Muted.
You need to
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. One of the things I've done is make sure, you know, my son, we stay active. We get out every day, walk about 5 miles, jump rope. We do stuff in the backyard. Because he'll be a senior next year, just trying to keep his, you know, I always tell him to keep his mind sharp, his body sharp. My daughter, she's a senior now, but she has a job. So, you know, we were kind of hesitant at first, but man, that job is keeping her busy. She's keeping a little change, some change in her pocket, and it's going to help her pay for her college costs in the fall. However that's going to look, you know, that we're still kind of uncertain. But just trying to stay busy and active is just one of the things we've kind of done to kind of get through this.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Right. And so, like I said, there's also some more fantastic comments in the chat, but I'll move on now to our third and final question for this particular portion. And that's really about what are your most pressing and urgent needs right now looking into the new school year? I know they're moving the needle every day. LAUSD said they're going back at the end of August, then with the potential resheltering for the second semester. Colleges, the UCs and CSUs are going to be online in the fall. So it's affecting our students transition to college. It's affecting our elementary, middle, and high school students, not knowing when school will start, if it'll be face-to-face. There's going to be 6 people in the classroom, you know, all these things. But we're just wondering, what are some of the urgent concerns that you have as parents looking into the upcoming school year?
And may I add, we had a question from Marion, a little bit of ways back, but it may overlap with this. Her question was, what are some suggestions for only children? She has a girl. She said only children have it hard. She's a social girl, and this has affected her social life. She's not showing much interest in reaching out through FaceTime, Zooming, or House Party even. Though she's joined these apps with her friends and has access, she's disappointed because she's missing out on her normal 6th grade graduation and activities. So we just wanted to acknowledge that. And I guess once you guys get into the breakout, you can talk about it further.
Absolutely. I think that we definitely want to make sure that we address that in the breakout. And if it, you know, Marion, if that is not addressed in the breakout, we have some excellent people on this call. So what we'll do at the wrap up is we can pose that question back to the group and then have people who have a response for that. And maybe you'll get some folks who will directly message you as well, because I do think that this idea of being an only child presents a different set of challenges for families. So we definitely want to acknowledge that, and I appreciate your question.
Great, and like we'll still want to take another minute or two to give parents time to process and to think about what are your pressing concerns as you look at the upcoming school year. Some questions you may have or some concerns you may have, not knowing if we'll be sheltered in, how long, what it will be like to transition back to a face-to-face environment, and then maybe having to transition back out. So if we can get a couple of people to share, that'd be fantastic.
In the chat, again, Ify had commented, she said, we're reconsidering the whole educational system and trying to think about how do we really educate our children for the future and not doing things using the same old ineffective ways of learning. But how do we do this when we have jobs and we're not curriculum specialists or educators? And then Alicia would like to speak. So let me find Alicia and allow her to chime in.
Hi, thank you. I think one of the challenges that, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes, okay. One of the challenges that we are facing right now with, my 3 children is that one of them has asthma. And, being African-American, having, this high rate of statistics of just, underlying health conditions, it concerns me, to, send any of my 3 children back to school in the fall, because I'm just afraid that if one of them gets, ends up contracting the virus, that, they would bring it home and then, say, pass it on to my daughter who has asthma, and, she ends up in the hospital, just because of her breathing issues. That is probably one of the biggest fears that I have as school starts in the fall. And, I've been talking to the school that they attend and, asking them like what types of procedures or, things that are going to be in place, like once the kids go back to school, in order to ensure there's, the kids' safety. I mean, I know that, it's impossible to, keep everyone, safe, 100% safe. But what would that model look like? Like what, how are you going to do that? Will you give parents the opportunity to say, hey, you know what, this is our situation. Can we maybe modify, what it is that you guys are trying to put in place, to fit our particular situation? And, how can we kind of all be on the same page? So that's something that concerns me, just as a mother, with children going back to school and, having underlying health conditions.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I think that's the tension that we're experiencing now, is how the need to get back to a sense of normalcy versus the need for safety. And is it long-term solutions versus short-term solutions? And so I think that's something that we're all grappling with. Thank you for sharing that.
Marion had shared, she said most of the private schools are planning on having some of the kids on campus every day and other grade levels rotating in every other week. Childcare, as people have to go back to work, will be a challenge because of that. Yeah. Desney had a pretty lengthy, Desney, would you rather say it?
It's another great point.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I was just coming from the spirit of, we've been here before. You think back in the 1700s, 1800s, the 40s, if you have parents like me that are from the deep South, well, we've had to come together and we've really just had to kind of take control ourselves and ensure that our community was educated. Now, how that looks, in a tangible way, I really can't say, but I think that's the spirit and the mentality that we really have, that we should take, that we probably should have always had. But now it's like we've been forced to kind of tap in to what we've done before. This isn't nothing new. It's new in the terms of the pandemic, but in terms of our communities, we've always kind of been left out of the, educational conversation. And we've always had to kind of, just kind of do it the way we wanted to do it. And I see my girl, Charla, she took matters into her own hands, started a school, just different things like that, or just parents coming together in a certain way. And we just kind of have to get through this together. Now, how that looks and the way you want to take that, that's always up for debate. But I think the spirit needs to be, we really just kind of have to we got to take the mentality, we got to go at this alone as a community.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I think that you made really, really good points in this idea of, we have a lot of challenges right now with, education because of a pandemic. But as you said, this is not something that is new when it comes to, Black education and the lack of investments there. So just being very strategic about what we do going forward is something that is very, very important. So, the point of this introduction part was really just to kind of get us going, get a conversation started, because now we think it's important to break down by those, different age groups and different grade levels, to think about what does that mean in the context of those specific grade levels. So at this time, we're going to be transitioning if there were comments that you made, we've been taking notes on that. We want to be able to capture that, go deeper, but we're going to break out into those sessions and really dig deeper to start to begin to think about, you know, what more about what's going on, what we need, and how we move towards solutions and resources.
Great. Thank you, Tanette. So the way that this will work, based on how you registered, you will be dropped into the appropriate breakout room. If for any reason you do not find yourself in a breakout room, just hold on. We will unmute you, find out where you should be, and put you there. So we ask that the moderators give it a couple minutes until we're sure that we've, you know, gotten folks where they need to go before you start in with your, you know, introductions and into the heavy part of the event. And then this piece will be about 40 minutes. Keep that in mind. And there'll be a 2-minute warning to come back into the general room. If for any reason you don't feel safe in the space, certainly we expect that our moderators are going to make you feel at home and comfortable in speaking. This is an open space where you'll be unmuted. But if for any reason you need to come out, you can hit the leave button in the top right corner and you'll be dropped back into the main virtual space, okay? So with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and open up the rooms. And you'll get a prompt that says to enter the room. LeBron, how was it?
Oh, we had a great session in the middle school. Everyone got a chance to share, and there was a lot of commonality. And ironically, I guess just because we Black folks, that our issues are not as much about COVID-19 as it is about surviving COVID racism that existed before the pandemic. And so I think it's a more dynamic conversation that we needed to have anyways. And have this forum discussion anyways, even prior to and post COVID. But I'm excited to hear what happened in the other rooms as well.
Great. So we're just waiting for folks to come back in. They were given about 2 minutes to wind things down. Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back. Welcome back. All right. Oh, Dr. Irvin, you had your hand raised? Okay. All right. So I'll unmute Jeanette and LeBron and let you guys take it. Folks are coming back in. We're excited to hear how it went.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. How's everybody feeling? You know, just feeling all right? I can see all the beautiful faces, so y'all can just head nod or shake your head if it's not, you know, how we feeling? Okay, I see some claps. All right, I love it. No, this is great. Our session was, you know, I think it was really eye-opening, and we had a lot of great conversation, as I'm sure the others did as well. And so we do want to offer an opportunity to have some kind of a recap of what that experience was like. Kind of, you know, what are some of those things that you talked about? We took a lot of good notes in our session. So maybe we will start with, you know, we can just kind of go through the different breakout sessions, and we can begin with, we'll begin with our pre-K through second grade. So it'd be great if someone would just kind of give a recap of what that experience was like. And if you raise your hand, Michelle can acknowledge that and call on you. If you don't get called on, please put it in the chat. You know, we're keeping all of this information, and I think it's great to be sharing in multiple ways, but it would be awesome to have a recap of what pre-K through second was like.
Certainly.
I prefer one of the attendees to do it.
Absolutely.
Can somebody speak? Charlotte?
That's what I was hoping for.
Hi, everybody. Charlotte again. First of all, appreciate Dr. Anthony Jackson and his lovely wife and the other Dr. Robinson for leading that discussion. So thank you guys very much for that. And really it focused on care of self and care of our children. So it really, for me as an educator, one thing I see is if the children don't feel safe and loved and nurtured, then there's not going to be any learning. So that, I think, comes first, and that's what they seem to focus on, or what they did focus on, and just provide a lot of opportunities and ways for us to care for ourselves, building routines that help children feel safe, but aren't just education based. I love what Dr. Anthony Jackson said. I believe he said an altar or a space, an educational altar. I just thought that was brilliant, and I wrote that down. But space and routines, but also letting the children lead, leading from them. Where are they today? How do they feel today? And using their place as a guide for how you move through your day as well. So those were some of my takeaways.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Okay.
Yeah.
Any others in the? Oh.
Thank you. Next, if we can have someone from the 3rd to 5th grade group who would like to share, either raise your hand or wave, and then Michelle will give you access to share to the whole group. I see.
We have Burgundy.
Said, yes.
Who are we?
We can unmute Burgundy.
Burgundy Montoya.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
A moment.
Hi, I think in our session, it was really, I guess empowering is a good word to use, to just talk about your concerns and kind of share where you are, because I think all of our experiences is that it's changing and it's challenging and it's new. And even though you feel like some of the comments were like, some of the things I do at work, I'm questioning if I'm doing that for my own kids. And so I think it was a powerful space to talk about best practices and, you know, how do we engage our own kids in meaningful ways without like how do we do a cool project without having to take hours to set it up? And so we talked about just some of the YouTube resources that were out there that we know about and are safe, because if you do a Google search, you're going to have a spreadsheet to kind of go through them and then try and vet every site before you give that to your kids. And so it was just nice to share best practices in journaling. There was a great idea shared about writing letters. Like because of my own personal situation with my daughter, I'm not with her every day, to write a letter to her in a journal. And then when she's here, she can write back to me, and it would be a good way to communicate in an ongoing space. So I think I just appreciated sharing kind of everyone's expertise and honesty.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for that one. And now if we could have someone from the middle school who would like to share on behalf of our middle school group, that would be great.
Hands raised. Please let me know.
I'm waiting for someone to volunteer, but if not, you will be voluntold by me in 10 seconds to participate from the middle school. Come on, people. Don't be making me look crazy on this. I'm saying, you know, we had a good conversation. Y'all black, y'all better step up and somebody better raise their hand. That's cultural competence teaching right there. That's how we engage.
That's right.
So, Alicia, would you be willing to share? I told you, Alicia, did you participate? You can just share a recap of what we shared in our group, please. Alicia Williams.
Okay, hold on a second. Let's find her. Alicia. Oh, there we go.
Okay. All right. I'm trying to think of like everything that we talk about. I know that one of the ladies shared, I think she's like a psychologist, and she mentioned like the mental health piece about how, you know, just spending time together as families is important. You know, communicating with each other and just basically, I don't know, just kind of creating a safe space for our children, especially with everything going on and, with the, all the challenges like socially and, with the pandemic, how it is important that we are able to, be able to communicate with them and kind of talk with them about, like what's going on with them and, how they're processing, all the information that's, that we're all getting, via online or, through the television. I know some of the things that I personally shared was just, having children that with special needs and being able to be a resource for them during this time when they're not really able to, be with the paraprofessionals that they're normally with, but also working with them virtually to help them, kind of get where they need to be and, kind of learning in the ways that their unique style of learning. Trying to see, I'm trying to think.
That's fantastic. That was fantastic, Alicia. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Neelam, did you want to, I'll unmute you. Did you want to share? She had a thumbs up, perhaps not. Okay, keep going.
Fantastic, yes. And now if we can have a representative from the high school group.
High school.
My man, Des. Thank you, Des.
Oh, you're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. One of the things we talked about at the high school is how do we really reestablish the connection with the parents, improving our parent engagement and really getting them to organically buy into the idea that they're stakeholders, that they're also owners of the school. Manla came up with some very good points because, we really do have to reestablish our view as educators, establish our view of parents, establish our view of our relationship with the parents, and then hopefully in that vein, help the parents reestablish their viewpoint of the school and educators, so there's not that discord, because we're all part of the equation, and for so long schools have kind of pushed parents out, especially parents of color, African American parents. So we were just kind of coming up with ideas, and we have some phenomenal educators, Sister Kiera and some others, who had tangible things that they've done at their school to really reestablish that connection with the parents so we can get that engagement, because without the parent engagement, it's going to be a tough road. We really need everyone to buy in. And we were just trying to come up with ways on how we can do that in a tangible sense.
Man, thank you, Des. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
And so lastly, if we could have someone from the higher ed group to please share. Oh, go ahead, Michelle, I'm sorry.
I think Dr. Urban wanted to speak.
Yes.
Let's have you unmuted.
I have a homework assignment. I neglected to mention a couple of websites. We can get lost in the web, but I just wanted to share these. And in your moment of rectitude, maybe you want to check them out. 2 titles. First title is Insights on Adapting to a Virtual Learning Environment. This comes out of some production called the Harvard Business Review. And then the second title, How Schools Are Adapting to Virtual Learning. And the production tag for this is Vidyard, VIDYARD. So I had intended on mentioning that in the breakout group I'm pleased to be able to do that now, and I wish everybody the best.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. LeBron, back to you.
Yes, thank you for those great resources. And so now we would love to have someone from the higher ed.
Really
group,
quick.
yes,
Sorry,
President.
LeBron, we got a question from Kelly Bedford.
Okay.
From Kelly, okay, just a second.
Sorry about that.
Oh. Mute.
Oh,
Unmute, please.
okay. Yes.
Oh, yep, go ahead.
Can you hear me? Yes.
Yes.
How is it that we as parents can kind of coax the administrators of the school to accept some of our good ideas when we actually do have them? I'm just thinking off the top of my head. For instance, when we talk about Schoology a lot at our school, and we have been suggesting throughout the whole year about ways that they can effectively communicate with us, and nobody seemed to want to do anything. The administrators would say, oh, that's a good idea, we'll look into that. But then they never come back to you with a follow-up. And then if you continue to ask, you can tell that there's some frustration coming from them, but only until we got into this COVID-19 thing did they now have to use the Schoology platform now, and then they still even say, oh, well, teachers need training. I mean, how much training to that is there really? I mean, I got on it and I just played with it and I learned it.
Mm.
So it's like, instead of parents getting the pushback from the school, how do we get them to at least consider what we're saying?
Right, right. So this is an excellent question, we have so many people in the room. And so Michelle, if you can be looking for hands, I want to open it up to the room. What are we thinking, right? I think this idea of, I've been thinking about how now we are co-teaching, right, in this space. And so we've always been our children's first teachers, but now we have to be seen that way. And, schools have to be thinking about how are they supporting the classroom teachers and also us, because we can't do it without each other. So I want to open it up to the group. And if you have suggestions or feedback or thoughts about this, that would be great before we give higher ed opportunity.
Can I say something?
Let me,
Jeanette?
Melissa, hold on just
Ah.
a second.
Okay.
Hi. One of the best ways to get your ideas said and activated in a school is to participate in SSC, School Site Council, because then you have a voice within the council and you have a platform to speak. So that was Kelly Bedford.
She's on the council.
I know that that's difficult if you're working, but if you can carve a space out, because generally they just meet one day a month and you can get your ideas, you're in a platform where other people with creative ideas can get put forth, and it has to be listened to because you're there. Even if you just show up at one of those meetings.
Yeah, so I was gonna actually add to that. So SSC stands for School Site Council. Each school has it, and it's extremely important for parents to be on it. Actually, it cannot function without parents, so legally you have to have parents on the body. And in addition to getting your ideas heard, you vote on budget, you determine how to spend the money for that school, you get to say no and push back. And so, and then even though I think it's only 2 to 3 parents for the body, and it's students and teachers, anybody can go, like the former speaker just said. Anyone, it's open to any parent. They usually do happen after school, and they're usually about an hour or 2 long. So I understand that it might, be a strain on a lot of people's schedule, but it is extremely important to get your voice heard. But I think that it's really important to have a parent committee or group of parents. If you don't feel like you're being heard by a particular person, go around that person, go to the teachers, strategize, organize, demand that you have a meeting, a mandatory meeting. Maybe you come into their meeting and present to teachers first. Sometimes you gotta bypass ego. And that's what I've learned in education. Sometimes you just gotta bypass that. And everybody has a boss. So if that particular person don't want to hear you, go to the boss, parent, because parents have a lot of power.
I am so excited. Thank you so much to hear that question. I am a current sitting principal with Los Angeles Unified School District. And at a school where the digital divide is so glaring right now, I am focusing on parents. And so parents bring in their expertise, and then parents who also need. So yes, you're right. There is the school site council. There is local school leadership. There are other committees, and there is just going straight to the principal and also to the teacher. Yes, and sharing and asking questions. You are spot on. Thank you.
Yes, I wanted to weigh in on that as well. You know, we talked a little bit about parents taking ownership of the school, and Dr. Irvin gave an excellent example of how he and his partner introduced themselves to the school. And the school site council is a very critically useful, formal way to have your voice heard. But I think among Black parents, we have to know that everything that we have had to do in every other arena applies to education as well. So leadership is needed. We need parent leaders. And that can be in a formal setting where you're on the school site council, or it can be informal where you simply reach out to other parents at your school, identify common concerns, and then bring those common concerns to the school. Kiara pointed that out in terms of how you work your way up the decision-making ladder. These are strategies that African Americans have had to use in every arena of our quality of life, and it's gonna apply in education as much or more so. So I think just developing that culture as a parent of being engaged with other parents and learning how to, what are the different avenues to communicate your voice, including the school site council, but certainly not limited to that. I think just that culture of being organized as parents and folks who are in a position to do so, stepping up and providing parent leadership is something that we just need to adopt wholesale as African Americans in the education system, just as much as it's necessary in every other aspect of our lives in this country.
If I can just step in, first shout out to Melissa. Hey, Melissa, and Tanette, if I can just put them on the spot. I know they've partnered to do some things in their school together. And that's one thing I'm going to suggest. And one thing I encourage and experience at our school is if a parent has an idea, our school is small enough to be able to do this right now, they can connect with the teacher and they can make it happen in the classroom. And then sometimes it grows from there. So it could be, hey, what can we do in this classroom to demonstrate first the success of this idea, and then it can grow and show the school leadership and the school admin what a great idea it is at that point, and then it can start to push out from there.
Thank you. Yeah, I saw Kimani's hand or a notice that she had a comment as well. Is that correct, Kimani?
Yes, that is correct. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Okay, so I definitely agree with what everyone was saying in terms of, getting involved with school site council, partnership with other people at the school. The more voices that a school hears, the best. And I'm a licensed clinical psychologist with LAUSD, and I also wanted to really share information, because the more information that we as parents know, that we're able to advocate for. So I don't know how many of you are aware that there was a board resolution passed to address the African American achievement gap. And part of that planning has to deal with having African American parent study groups in each local district. So I don't know how many of you are aware of that, but for those of you who are not aware of that, it's very important for us to really be involved in that and really push for that to make sure that it actually happens. Because in that way, from those African American study groups, we can have a collective voice in terms of what our needs are. So I would suggest that if you're not aware of the African American study group, to contact your principal, to contact your local district operations office if you are within LAUSD. So we have operations office for all of our local districts. So I would encourage you to do that, because again, this is a very powerful opportunity for us to have a united voice, given that we have had this board resolution passed to address this historical achievement gap for Black students. Oh, and also George McKenna's office. Yes, you can definitely contact George McKenna's office, the board member who put forth the resolution. So I would encourage all of us to do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so, and I think, I'll say this last point and then we'll let Higher Ed share. But I definitely think, having been, I'm on the school site council. My kids' school attend a school where it's a pilot school, so I'm also on the governing school council. I attend board meetings regularly, and I'm on some committees throughout the district. I think that sometimes when you have issues that are so localized at your school, a lot of those other things that happen throughout the district don't always satisfy what you need on the ground level. So I think it definitely is, you got to think about the different levels, because everything that happens at a board meeting doesn't always come back down to your school site. So just thinking about how we continue to build these relationships at the school level, and when it's not going the way we want it to, how do we think about the strength in numbers at that very local level as well? And I think so just making sure that we think about those things are important to me, because there have been local issues that don't always mean stuff at the district level. And maybe they should or they could, but they don't. And so just thinking about that. I know this is a lot of good discussion. I think it was an excellent question, but we definitely want to give Higher Ed an opportunity to share what they discussed, and then we will wrap this up.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Go ahead,
Okay.
Gina.
So no one showed up for Higher Ed. Essentially, those of us that were on the panel discussed the challenging police culture and took our time discussing issues at hand, issues that are occurring right now, but we received no one in our room.
Okay. No, that's, I think that everybody who showed up was who needed to show up in this moment, and to give space to talk about that is always important and it's always necessary. And so we will respect that and honor that. And I think, the one thing that I gather from this is that this can't be the last conversation, right? We have a lot, and we talked about that a little bit in our group, where, just even being able to have these sort of check-ins, to be able to see how things are going. Some days it's going well, some days it's a mess, and to continue to think about, how we can support each other. We had some really excellent points. Before we do wrap it up, I do see in the chat that Kelly has a comment that, or some information that she wants to share. So I'll allow you to do that, Kelly.
Okay, hold on. Locator. Kelly. Oh, there we go.
Thank you. No, I was just wondering if Miss Embry had any important information to share. I'd like to hear what she would have said to a group had they been in the room.
Good question.
It is a good question. Thank you. Thank you for asking. Essentially, it was our goal to pretty much ask the parents, or hopefully we were hoping to get actual students, adult students as well as transitional age youth, to talk about what the issues are. Very recently, there was I guess you would call it a convocation that was given for African American students specifically, where they addressed the stressors that they're dealing with right now in terms of just accessing distance education and being able to make the transition. And some of the issues that were brought up had to do with access to technology. Many of our students were not set up in such a way that some of them didn't have internet access at all. Many of them did not have computers. Some of them in my class currently are trying to complete classes on a cell phone, if you can believe that. Now, whether or not that would have represented this demographic with Black alumni, who knows? My guess is probably not. Some of those issues would not be the same. But certainly, other issues that would be uniform and universal to all college students would be the whole issue of just, missing that connectedness, missing that direct interaction with an instructor. I saw that someone had mentioned in the group chat that there have been difficulties communicating with teachers. Some, let's be honest, some are on vacation. Some have been on vacation. LeBron's nodding his head. Some instructors have been on vacation since spring break. And that's an issue, particularly if you're dealing with non-traditional students. Most of my students are in a chemical dependency certification program. Some of them are, you know, as old as 70 years old. They're vintage souls. And they're experiencing extreme difficulties, not only in terms of accessing the technology, but navigating the technology. Again, I don't think that necessarily represents this demographic, but that's the reality of what's going on right now. Trying to find administrators, trying to get someone to just respond to your needs. I did want to say something about a question that was asked earlier on about what we can do. And it was mentioned school site councils as a form of advocacy. I'd like to also suggest putting things in writing. You know, advocacy through volunteerism and being available is a wonderful thing, but we all know that in a bureaucracy, and education has always been bureaucratic and political, that when you put things in writing, people respond to it much more quickly. So I would definitely recommend that. I'm trying to think of what else. My guess is that the future of education, at least at the community college level, is that it's going to continue well into the fall online. I don't see us going back anytime soon. I'm hoping that LAUSD instructors are not bullied into going back in before it's safe to do so. I really do. And I hope that if indeed that's the case, which is what it looks like it's going to be, that they collectively resist for the children's sake as well as their own. And that's outside of my realm, but I felt
Gina,
the need to say that.
thank you so much for that. I just want to echo what Gina was saying in terms of what the future of education will look like. And I would just like for 10 seconds, if everybody could click the gallery view where you can see everybody on the screen at the same time. The future of education for Black students will be this. They will be able to pick and choose the teachers they want by looking at a screen of Black professionals. And it doesn't matter where they live, what their zip code is. They will be able to go through like a Yelp screening and have the best and brightest Black teachers around the world at their fingertips, all you professionals, 24 hours a day. So the pandemic has created this shift, and the new school system will look like what we're looking at right now. Everyone here is involved, educated, engaged. I've enjoyed everyone's comments, and so students now will be able to learn from all of you anytime. And those who are the best teachers will have 1,000 to 3,000 students in their class, and you will become super teachers, influencer teachers. That's the future. So forget the current school system. That's just a wrap. This is what the future is going to look like. And I'm glad to be on this call with all of you because you will be the leaders in helping to create this new school system for the future. So back to you tonight.
Yeah. No, what you said was beautiful. And I think that, we will be convening again. The purpose of today was to have this check-in, think about how we've been impacted and how we might collectively come together to think about the next steps. And I think about, exactly what you said, LeBron, like our kids are in many HBCUs all over the country right now, and we need to build up on that. And so we are thankful for the opportunity to come together in this space. We're going to do it again. And I'm going to turn it back over to Michelle.
Okay. This has been amazing. I'm so glad that we were able to come together to talk about these important issues. I want to thank all of our Black alumni for giving of their time and energy. I want to thank the parents, administrators, everyone who's come on to share your experiences and to share your knowledge. I think that we're coming out of this better than we did a couple hours ago. We will actually have a post survey that will come to you via email. We would love to hear your feedback about how we can improve upon it. And yes, we're definitely going to have a follow-up to this discussion There's so much more work to do. I want to thank our board chairman for his participation. I want to thank LP Virtual Productions for hosting the platform, and wish you guys well. Be safe as we go back out into what is a somewhat dangerous environment for us all on a daily basis. We pray the safety of your sons and your daughters and yourself. And thank you so much for your participation.